Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for taking the time to be with us to look at the customer self-service portal for the Sage 300. Today we have Peter Graychuk of North 49 who will be taking us through the self-service portal and answering any questions you have. So without any further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Peter.
Thanks, Stefan. Good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for joining us. As Stefan said, I'm going to, first of all, just run through a couple of slides just to introduce the general concepts of what the customer portal is about, and then I'll pop into what we call our test drive portal. It's something that you can log into and take a test drive, as the name implies, and see what it does. So just a little bit about us, first of all, as you know, the obligatory slides about who we are and why you should care. We've been a development partner for Sage 300 since, well, before it was Sage 300. Some of you have been around long enough, you'll recognize the name ACPAC. It's been around since about, I don't know, mid to late 80s, and the principals of our company have been developing products for it since that time. It was a DOS product at that time, of course. So, so a lot of the products we've developed over the years have been acquired by Sage, and they now form part of the core software offering. So there's a bunch of stuff that you're probably using right now that is products we've developed. They're now part of the Sage core product. The last batch of products they bought from us was a couple of years ago. They went into the 2014 release, and they actually contracted us to write it into the source code of the product. So in all likelihood, we are the only company outside of Sage that has ever had access to that source code. So we're very familiar with Sage 300, with its inner workings, and our guys have been doing this for so long, we probably know it as well as Sage does. The customer portal itself is really a means for your customers to be able to serve themselves. They don't have to wait for you to be available, you know, during normal business hours. And if you look at some of the industry information out there about where business is going in the business-to-business environment, folks want this kind of functionality. It's no longer a nice to have, it's almost expected by your customers. They want that same experience shopping with their vendors that they get when they're shopping with Amazon, or, you know, in their personal consumer lives. They want that same kind of experience when they're dealing with their business vendors. So this is a small step to getting there if you don't want to go full-blown, you know, web store and that kind of thing. And incidentally, I should mention, we also do publish a fully integrated web store to Sage 300, which it can include, you know, what you consider to be a web store and everything that a web store can do, sales rep portal so they can be in the field and doing all that stuff, and then of course a customer portal. Now, anytime we're talking about placing orders, we're talking about more full web infrastructure. Same would hold true for the sales rep portals, because they need to have access to all the product information, all the pricing information, all that, regardless of where they are or whether or not they have connectivity to Sage in the back office. Now, the customer portal is a little different. It reads data live out of Sage 300. So in this instance, we don't have to store any of your data on our web service in order to make this happen. There's simply this tiny little service that gets installed on your Sage 300 data servers, and it sits and waits for us to make a request of information and then serves that data back up to us on the web. So the data is live as of that point in time. So we don't need to replicate any of that data to the web. It's read on demand in a very secure IP to IP communication and then served up to the web for the user to act on in whatever way that they need to. And when they move away from that screen, the data is gone. It never actually resides on the web. It's display only. So very secure, and it's up to date as of when they press that button to say, bring me that data. So because we have that separate component, that connect component, that allows us to deploy that customer portal as a completely separate product than from the web store itself. So it makes it inexpensive and very quick to install. So let me just get my demo portal up and we can have a look at this. So take a note of this URL, portal.north49.biz. You can log into this anytime you like. So what I'm going to talk about is our standard portal. So we offer this out at a specific price, which is $12.95 to set up and $250 per month. And what you get for that function, or for that price, is the functionality that I'm going to talk about or demonstrate here. Now, we do have the ability to access, well, any data that's inside of Sage 300. And also any data that's in an ODBC compliant data source. So if there's something that you would like your customers to have access to that I haven't shown, chances are very good that we can do that. It's going to be outside of what the standard is, so we just need to have a conversation about it to figure out how much extra work it's going to be for us to do that, and we can provide you with a quote to make that happen. But bear that in mind as I go through this stuff. I don't want to keep bringing it up, but what I'm going to show you is the standard portal and what functionality that gives you. Excuse me. So this would be the typical landing page you would get. Of course, this will have your contact information up in this corner here, your contact information down here. This would, of course, have your company name and logo, that type of thing. This will be your welcome message to your customers. In our case here, we've included this request username and password, so anybody can log in here, ask for access. We're going to send them the login credentials so they can navigate through this and have a look at what it is. And we can do something similar for you guys as well. So right now the username is 1200 and the password is back to school, capital B, capital T, capital S, and that should gain you access. Now we do change that periodically, so if you try and log in and have a look and that doesn't work, just click that, send me the username and password, and I'll send you the updated credentials. Okay, so this is what your typical login page is going to look like. You'll get access to these 6 different icons, and I'll go through each of these individually and show you what they show. First of all, the account activity gives you a basic summary level information about what's in that customer account. So, you know, who they are, their status, last couple of purchase statistics for the last couple of years, and some other basic information that might be relevant for that customer. Fairly standard stuff here. Next, let's go at view transactions. So notice that I can either navigate through these menu lines up here, or I can go all the way back to that front page and do so through the icons. So they've always got access to wherever they want to go next through the portal. So when I'm looking at these view transactions page, it's going to by default show me every transaction in the system for that customer for as much history as you've got. Now it certainly is possible for us to limit this. Again, that's a little bit outside of what the standard provides. By default, it's everything. But they do have the ability to filter this down to say open only documents, meaning those that still have a balance on them, or even filter it down to, let's say, just invoices. So now I can see all my open invoices with you as the vendor and for me as that customer. And if I want to, I can drill down into that document and I can see the information or the different line items on that invoice. And if I so choose, I can choose to reprint that document as well. And what this is showing you here now is an HTML rendering of a typical invoice layout document. We will, of course, do some minor customizations on here up in this top corner here to show your contact information and your logo. We're not going to divert from this too much. Again, as part of the standard, we kind of have to put a fence around what functionality we're going to provide, otherwise scope can get out of hand a little bit and it gets fairly expensive to do stuff. But the standard is going to provide you with this layout with your specific contact information there. And of course they can save this to a PDF, they can print it to a printer. Most modern browsers are going to support printing to PDF, so you get that by default. And this holds true for all documents in here, invoices, credit notes, orders, all of that stuff can be recalled and reprinted whenever the customer wants to do so. And again, what you see when I'm clicking on that button there, this is going out. When I change this, it's actually running out to the Sage that's back-ending this, retrieving that data and bringing it back to the page. That's how quick this works. So the next thing we want to look at is paying account. Now we've got the ability here to integrate to a payment gateway. Now we recommend most of the time Sage Payment Solutions because of their tight integration to Sage 300. Now that doesn't mean we're necessarily limited to that, but the standard will give you an integration to Sage Payment Solutions out of the box for no additional cost. So what I can do here is now I can select the invoices that I want to pay and also have a look at just the line items on that invoice just to be sure I'm paying the right one. So I just have to click on the ones that I want to pay, hit that make payment button. Now of course we've just mocked up our our pop out to the payment gateway, because if you're paying attention, you'll notice this total isn't the total that showed up on those two documents, but we didn't really want to pop out the true gateway. But this is essentially what's going to happen for your customers when they go to make a payment. It's going to fill in all of this stuff automatically for them and the totals automatically. All they need to do is put in their credit card number, expiration date, and the CVV. They hit that Pay Now button. And then what happens is we're going to run that transaction. Well, they're actually in the gateway right now, so you're not taking credit card information yourself on your site. This is fully PCI compliant because you, nor we as part of the portal, ever touch that card. The payment gateway is touching and doing that transaction of the card, so you're fully compliant. So what happens now is we'll process that transaction, or Sage, pardon me, the payment processor will process that transaction, and if it's successful, we will get a response back from them that we can say, you know, payment was successful. And in the background, what happens? We're going to take that transaction and pass it into an AR receipt batch so you can actually reconcile that with your invoices. So it automatically gets posted into AR when that payment gets done. So fairly straightforward stuff. Next thing is view orders. And so what this allows you to do is take a look at all orders in the system for me as a customer. And again, I can look at only open orders, or if I want to look at all orders, I can do that as well. We support all the order types, so the active, future, standing, and quotes. And this also, I'm going to switch this back to open again. So you can also look at this rather than by order, but by item. So this kind of gives you, I think of it as a back order report, I guess, or something like that, because now this tells me all the outstanding products that I'm waiting for from you as my vendor, and if I want to, I can click on that order and find out what order it's on and see what other items might be on that order that I'm waiting for as well. And again, with the same reprint options that I had with the invoice that I showed earlier. Some other basic stuff, of course, the obligatory contact us form, fairly straightforward. We'll just send off an email to the designated internal email address that you would specify. We'll put some stuff in here automatically from the account number and the account name, but we do allow them to change who the contact person is making that inquiry, what their email and phone number is, and of course the nature of their message, and that will get sent off again to that designated email address internally. The change password function, of course. Now I'm going to show you something here inside of Sage where all this stuff is stored. You have ultimate control over who gains access to this system. And let me just show you that by showing you the Sage system that back ends this. And for some reason my RDP keeps disappearing off of my screen, but let me call it up again. And I just want to show you a couple of things here that are kind of cool that you can do with this. So here is the Sage that is serving up the data for that portal that we were just looking at. So I'm going to pop into the customer record here. And it was customer number 1200, if you recall, that we logged in as. And that's Mr. Ronald Black. I don't know if you guys are ever familiar with that, but he's our favorite demo customer. So you remember the password. Here's that customer password sitting inside an optional field inside of Sage 300. And so let me just go back to my screen here. So this guy here is stored in my, I've lost it, where'd it go? Oh, here he is. Is stored inside that AR customer record right here. That's the password. So as you give these, as maybe you get this thing set up initially, and you'll send out a default password to all your customers, and the default might be it's your account number with us and your email address is your password. And the first time they log in, they'll be prompted to change that. And what happens when they change that is it writes it back into this field, this optional field, into the Sage AR customer record. So if you, for some reason, don't want your customer, a specific customer, have access to this, you simply have to delete this or change that password. Something else that's kind of cool is we've included a new comment type here. So this is something that's standard inside of the AR module, and we've included a couple of comments here. One's called web and one's called web acknowledge. So let me create one called web field. So this is for the Computrack demo. Spelling mistakes and everything included. Just save that. And then let me navigate back to my portal. And that message pops up for me. So you can, on a customer by customer basis, indicate a message that you want to send out to them. So this might be something like, I don't know, the credit card we have for you is on file is expiring, so please contact the office to renew that. Or, you know, special this week for you only, 10% off, or happy birthday, Mr. Jones, whatever. And when they click OK on that, what now happens is this comment, let me just navigate away from this and come back. This comment has now changed to a web acknowledge comment, so you know that they've seen that and acknowledged reading that message. So that can be quite handy in a couple of different scenarios. So just wanted to show you that as an interesting little feature there. I think that is essentially the bulk of what this standard portal is all about. Again, to sort of bring back what I first mentioned at the beginning, this is the standard. We have access to anything in Sage 300, literally anything. If it's in there, we can get access to it and serve it up to the web if it makes sense. An example is something that we do. Again, like as mentioned at the beginning, we build web stores, integrated web stores for customers. And one of the icons that we have on our portal is called Webtelligence Stats. And when somebody clicks on that, we maintain a separate SQL table that has all of this statistical information in it. And so when they click on that, basically what it does is it calls up their account, their information with all the history that we have by year, and they can drill into it, and it will show them how much data was used, how much bandwidth data was used, how many orders, how many SKUs, how many page hits, all this kind of stuff, as well as all other billing information is on there, so they can see their invoicing for that. So that's an example as how we have used the portal with external information from Sage to serve up information that's relevant to our customers. And so it's quite common for businesses to have other programs or other sets of data that they use to manage their business that it might be important for their customers to see that data too. So that's the case, again, outside the standard, but we can serve that up for your customers if it makes sense to do so. So I think I've covered everything that I need to cover with respect to the customer portal. Fairly straightforward, easy to install, very simple setup. Like I say, the footprint on your system is tiny. It's this little service that sort of sits on the server waiting for us to ask a question and then asks it of Sage and brings us back an answer. Very secure. It's IP to IP, and it's also encrypted. So it's a very secure communication. And that's about it. So Stefan, perhaps we want to open it up for questions if there are any.
Sure. If anyone has any questions, they can unmute their line or they could type it into the chat.
It's a pretty straightforward thing, so it's you know, if there are no questions, that's not surprising because it's fairly straightforward. I think it's very simple to understand. And again, if you want to log in here, you can certainly do that. That URL is portal.north49.biz. Current username is 1200, and the password is back to school with a capital B, capital T, and capital S. And if for some reason that doesn't work, you click on this button right here, and I'll send you the new login credentials. And you'll be up and running there fairly quickly.
All right, well, I guess if there's no questions, I mean, if there are any questions later on, you can always give me a call. I'm sure everyone has my information, but I'll follow up with everybody. Or you can reach out directly to Peter. Yep, our information's on the screen there. So if that's it, we'll let everyone go early. So enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Peter. Thanks, everyone.